It's up to you, New York, New York.
How we doing, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Richie Hicks Jr. Sports Podcast. Happy Thursday to all. What a baseball game yesterday from Trey Savage. We saw what this kid was capable of in the Yankee series when he basically just shut down some big-time hitters in the form of Giancarlo Stanton, Aaron Judge, etc. You know, proven guys, proven big-time MLB stars. But yesterday, 7 strong innings, Game 5 World Series, where a huge percentage of Game 5 winners go on to win the series when the series is tied 2-2. They take 2 out of 3 in LA. 12 Ks through 7 innings, holding the Dodgers to just 1 run. That's phenomenal. Truly phenomenal. What's also hard to believe is Blake Snell, a guy who was carrying under a 1 ERA going into the World Series. First 3 pitches of the game, 2 of them for home runs. And the Blue Jays never really took their foot off the gas yesterday. You know, the Dodgers cut it to 2-1, but the Blue Jays just tired out the Dodgers. And this is the second time that they really got to Blake Snell. And that guy right there, Mr. Don Mattingly, Donnie Baseball, my favorite New York Yankee, who is, of course, a bench coach with these Toronto Blue Jays, the second in command. 1 win away from that ever-elusive World Series title as this man is in year 40 of his baseball journey. Of course, nothing to celebrate yet if you're a member of Don Mattingly's family or just a fanboy like myself. But although I was not pleased with the way the Blue Jays celebrated against the Yankees when they eliminated us, one thing I've got to say watching these Major League playoffs is that these guys deserve it, and they have more than earned it. And they have come back with their backs against the wall. They showed that kind of resolve in the regular season when they were losing a pretty healthy lead in the American League East. Ultimately, they tied for best record in the AL, but had a tiebreaker over the Yankees. By virtue of that, they had home field advantage throughout the American League playoffs. But they have showed time and time again during these playoffs that they can come back. And I'll be honest, after that 18-inning marathon game, which led to the Freddie Freeman walk-off home run, I really didn't think in a swing game like a Game 3, tied 1-1, and you lose that game that I personally think the Blue Jays should have won, I didn't think they were going to be able to emotionally recover. You know, the Dodgers have been there multiple times. They're the defending world champions. But the Blue Jays are playing like the team that has been there so many times, and in reality, that is not the case. Dodgers won the pandemic World Series. They've been in other World Series. Last year, they won it against the Yankees. Dave Roberts has a lot of postseason experience as the manager of this club. So, truly remarkable right now what the Toronto Blue Jays are about to do. And interesting caveat, I saw something interesting yesterday, which showed the salary per pitch between Shohei Ohtani and Trey Savage when they had the one of their one-on-one meetings during an at-bat. And it just goes to show you that when you are coming up in the major leagues, you're not really catching your value yet in terms of salary. But your Savage will not have to worry about that. There will be a lofty contract coming his way as the rookie has just shown that he could be a huge part of one of the faces of Major League Baseball's pitchers moving forward. And I look forward to, if the Blue Jays do indeed pull this off, to see what the Yankees are going to do counterwise. Because when a team wins the World Series in your division and they beat you, one would think it would add a lot of motivation to get things right, so to speak. So, you have a guy like your Savage in Toronto. You have a guy like Ham Schlittler who was just getting started in the Bronx. And these are guys that down the road could be legitimate future aces. So very exciting. Because when you look at the Blue Jays rotation, you got guys like Bassett and Scherzer, Bieber. These are all wily veterans that have been around baseball for a long time. But when it's the kid that comes up big like this, it's truly remarkable. Vladimir Guerrero, a postseason for the ages. It's been a long time since I've seen someone this locked in one singular postseason, and Vladimir Guerrero is proving to a lot of the naysayers that he is that dude because there was a lot of chatter that the Blue Jays were not going to pay him the money and they were going to let him walk. So I think it's a grand, wise investment that they're keeping him around. Something I want to talk about on the gridiron before I give you my Thursday night football preview. Dexter Lawrence, perennial All Pro, not having an All Pro caliber season this year as he's coming off an injury from last year. And I'll be honest, just watching him play, I do believe he is a little slower. I think he is still recovering. And I think he's put on some unwanted weight. Just my opinion. Carl Banks, legendary linebacker from the Giants in the 80s and 90s, two-time Super Bowl winner, played alongside Giants greats like Lawrence Taylor, Pepper Johnson, Harry Carson, etc. One of the more honest analysts that covers the New York Football Giants. And he basically said recently on his podcast that NFL teams do not respect Dexter Lawrence like they once did. Now, when we're talking sound bites and things of that nature, I think a lot of things could get blown out of proportion. I personally think from the analytical football side, Carl was just trying to bring attention to the fact that Dexter Lawrence is not demanding that same kind of attention from opposing offenses. He also won in on the fact that Dexter was one-on-one with a backup center on the Philadelphia Eagles in their most recent game. Lawrence's numbers have not been there this year. Last year, if my memory serves me right, he had around 8 sacks before he got injured. Um, it's Dexter's job to be a run disruptor and to push the pocket. His sack numbers are not necessarily what's going to reveal if he's having a good season or not. You have other guys on that team that get sacks. You have edge rushers galore. But if you watch the film through the first half of this Giants season, Dexter Lawrence has not been that guy. And even on rotational swaps, when he comes out of games, his less salaried teammates have performed better. I think Dexter played a hell of a game against the Chargers, the Giants' first win of the season, Jackson Dart's first career start. I thought Lawrence had quite a game. But the reality is Lawrence has not been that player. Now, do I feel that Carl should have maybe addressed this with Dexter in private? I'm not sure. Because when you cover a team, you don't cover a team to worry about everyone's feelings. You're being brutally honest. And I think one thing about Carl Banks is that he knows what he's talking about. And he demands and commands that respect in the Giants organization. But it's an unfortunate situation, and Dexter's response was, I think, to a level to be expected because you have to defend yourself to a level. But do I necessarily think that calling a Giants legend delusional is the way to go? 'Cause if that's the case, then I think a lot of Giants fans are also delusional because we watch the tape and we've been seeing what's going on with Dexter. I hope that the two men can get together and talk it out. But unfortunately, I think this is a bad situation But I don't think Carl needs to do anything different. I think Dexter is a good person. I think he's a hard worker. I just think Dexter right now is going through it physically. And, you ask any real athlete, they're not going to talk about what might be hindering them when they play. They're just going to go out there and ball, you know. And I don't see Dexter as an excuse maker, but calling a Giants legend delusional when it's become painfully obvious that you are not putting up the same kind of effectiveness that you have in previous years, not the right play. But hopefully these two guys can talk it out. Thursday night football, we finally get the return of Lamar Jackson, and it couldn't come at a better time for the Baltimore Ravens as they head to South Florida to take on the Miami Dolphins. With the recent struggles of the Pittsburgh Steelers, predominantly their defense, and catching a couple of L's consecutively, this is a division that if Lamar can rally the troops, so to speak, the Ravens can still compete in this division and possibly have a second half surge. And I think you could say the same thing about the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, of course, the Bengals getting beat by the Jets, a very motivated Jets team that was playing for the recently departed Jets legend Nick Mangold, who sadly passed away at the young age of 41. I expected the Jets to come out and give everything they possibly could. It was an inspiring win for the Jets on the road, for sure. But this is a Bengals team that, in lieu of Joe Burrow being injured, Joe Flacco's been doing his thing, and he has proven that he can get the ball consistently to their skill players like Higgins and Chase. So the Bengals and the Ravens both have an opportunity to get back into this North race where a couple of weeks back, I would just feel that even if the Steelers weren't great, nobody was really posing a threat. I will not include the Browns on that conversation because at quarterback, they just don't know what they're doing right now. As the game goes tonight, one thing I will give Miami credit for, they are playing hard for Mike McDaniel, for sure. Tyreek Hill's out for the year. They are not using that as an excuse. They're playing hard. I did not expect them to whip the Atlanta Falcons in the manner that they did. They almost beat the Chargers. They should have beaten the Panthers. The Dolphins, despite their record, are playing hard. And I will have to say that on some level, that has to be a reflection of what they feel about their coach, a guy who, although Dolphins brass has not said it, should be at least at minimum on the hot seat. But the Dolphins struggle mightily against the run. The Ravens struggle mightily against the pass. So I think this is the perfect kind of prediction where you're going to see a high scoring football game. Now, with all the terrible stuff going on in the NBA with Vegas and all, uh, it would be kind of ironic if this game goes on the under. But I would be surprised because between the Ravens' inability to stop the pass and the Dolphins' inability to stop the run, I expect to see a high scoring affair. Give me the Baltimore Ravens in a high scoring game, 34-27 over the Dolphins. I expect Derrick Henry to hit pay dirt twice, and I believe Lamar Jackson is not going to be his sharpest, but I think he's going to do some damage with his legs. I expect Devin Achan to have a big game, as well as Jalen Waddle. 34-27, Ravens for the dub to start off week 9 in the National Football League. And my game 6 prediction, which will be tomorrow, as the scene switches north of the border, they are back in the Rogers Center. I've got the Los Angeles Dodgers forcing a game 7, winning 6-5. That was the prediction I gave yesterday. So I'm going with the same score. 6-5 Dodgers forcing a game 7, which I ultimately think the Blue Jays will find a way to win. If you haven't already, please make it a point, like and subscribe to the channel, the Richie Hicks Jr. Sports Podcast on YouTube. Tonight, we are going to go in on the rest of week 9. I believe my buddy Brett will be joining. I'm going to hit Idris and Zappy and see who we are going to be getting on the show tonight. But at 10 p.m. Eastern Time, should roughly be around the third quarter of tonight's Thursday night football game, we will be going live, giving you all the picks and deeper conversation into the trajectory of some of these teams right now, both good and bad for every team in the NFL that we're going to be covering today. Have a great rest of your Thursday, everyone, and I look forward to you guys joining us tonight Peace. I'm out.